What's up, family? It's Caden with Urban Finance. I am here with Quante Turner, the owner, and I don't know if people use the title for specifically like this for CEO, but of Emerald City Plant Shop. And we're going to be talking about um, starting a business during a pandemic. So, what it's like to start a business during a pandemic. And just to give a little coloring and background, Q is one of the first people that I would potentially call my friend when I first moved to the city of Boston and joined a group of young Black professionals. The group was called YBP, which actually stands for Young Black Professionals. And I would say it was a lot of fun times that I would not even talk about on anything that is public, but it was good times. So Q, can you tell the people a little bit about yourself?
My name is Quante, or I go by Q. And I'm just an all-around creative, an entrepreneur, ever since I was born, I guess. Like as soon as I don't know, like the sixth grade, fifth grade, I'd be selling my toys on the side of the road, doing lemonade stands. So it's definitely been a part of my personality and my journey. And in that journey, it led me to open up Q Made It, which was like my creative powerhouse, whether it be baked goods, t-shirts, pins, you name it. And then segued into my current endeavor now. Let's see, there we go. Emerald City Plant Shop. So I'm really excited to be here. Yeah.
So I guess the question I'm going to ask you for off the bat is, what made you decide to open a brick and mortar type of business during a pandemic when many businesses were actually closing down?
So the long story kind of made short is that my Q Made It business was going great. Even throughout the pandemic, a lot of what I make is Black centered geared. So Protect Black Women t-shirts. This is actually not mine, but a lot of those things. So that was actually, at the height of the protest last year, a lot of that was still going. And so Christmas and holidays rolled around, and I had the opportunity to vend at a pop-up in Legacy Place in Dedham. For those that are familiar with the area, that is not a very diverse area. So I knew that my Q Made It goods wouldn't be selling off the shelves. And so kind of the backstory is that I have been working at a plant shop in the South End called Niche for the last almost 2 years. And so I learned a lot about plants. I really took that part-time job just to support my personal plant habit. And so I knew that the plant market was booming. As soon as we had opened up in April, no, I think I was actually closer to May, we couldn't keep any plants on the shelf. So I was like, let me take this opportunity to sell what I know, that is a universal fit for everyone, and which is plants. So I did the month-long pop-up at Black Owned Boss in Dedham, and I sold out every weekend. I couldn't keep up with the demand, and the most common question was from my customers was, where are you located? Where can I shop? After this pop-up is done. And I was like, well, I didn't think that far in advance, but I guess I should start thinking about a brick and mortar space. I live in Norwood, so I was actually going into town in the town center to get a massage, and I saw this vacancy sign, which is now my plant shop. So I feel like the universe was just throwing me alley-oops to make sure that this dream came to fruition, and I just followed the signs and put a hell of a lot of work into it.
No, that's awesome. Is this your first like brick and mortar type of business venture that you've taken under?
Yes, this is my first brick and mortar. So Q Made It was just the online. I'd have my Etsy page, and I would do like pop-ups. So that was the extent of my Q Made It business. But when I was thinking about a physical plant store, part of the trial run, I'd say, which was the Legacy Place pop-up, was, is this a good idea for this part of the city? Will this take off? And so that month gave me a snapshot of what I could potentially be making just in a brick and mortar. And then the added piece is that my place is not only a plant shop, but it's also going to be an event space, or is an event space. I'm actually going to be having my first event in 2 weeks here. And as you know, I'm glad that you talked about YBP, because a lot of my passion in being involved in YBP is creating space, specifically for professionals of color, specifically Black professionals. So having a brick and mortar storage for me just meant a physical place where I can convene my people. So with that added piece, I thought it would be a lot easier of a financial jump, not only to have the plants be making the money for the space, but also the added layer of having events and people renting the space for events.
Oh, nice. And because I was actually going to ask that, is it like events that people are actually going to be paying to rent the space? Are you going to be hosting the events? I was going to ask kind of like, what does that look like? And you don't have to give any numbers. I guess, did you have to do research when you were determining pricing for for hosting events and things like that? And how did you go about kind of identifying the types of events you would like to have at your shop?
Yeah, so it definitely is going to be both. Both people renting events, renting the space for their own events. I did a good amount of research. Or I guess I should say my lived experience working at the plant shop and just my love for plants really made me realize that people want spaces that look beautiful, that are filled with plants to have their events. I've seen people that had weddings at plant shops and things like that. So I was like, that is the added piece. And the history of that piece is that my house, my very small condo, is where I held events at pre-pandemic. I held dinners, I held movie nights, and my space is an extension of my love for plants. And so everyone will always come in and say, "Oh my gosh, like your place is gorgeous. I just want to sit here and be here." And so with that feedback, also with the feedback and experience, having worked at a plant shop, I knew that the event piece, especially coming out of the pandemic, people would kind of flock to it. I am currently working a full-time job and managing the plant store. So really excited to be able to kind of throw myself full in the fall, because just the event aspect of it alone is a full-time job. So really excited about that kind of coming to fruition. But yes, renting for people to use the space, but also true to my nature, I love getting people together. So I envision the space for panels, for poetry nights, for movie nights, for, just networking sessions. Just again, another place for us to convene that's Black owned and for us.
One of the interesting things, as I talk to a lot of business owners, a lot of them actually have a full-time job, and so I think historically, I've always thought that when someone starts a business, they immediately left their job and, just throw everything into that business. But what I find in more and more as I speak to business owners is that, no, I make sure I keep my job until I know that my business is a steady enough stream to support some type of lifestyle. And so I guess my question for you, and just for first clarity for myself, are you saying in the fall you're going to go full time into, just the plant shops and the hosting the business? And I guess what was the planning and preparation to make that actually happen, or get to the place where you feel comfortable enough just doing, working on your particular business full time?
Mm-hmm. It's a dance. It's a dance as an entrepreneur. You're gonna have, and just the entrepreneurs in my circle, there's gonna be times where you have a full-time job because business is slow and you need to pay those bills. This will be technically my third time leaving a full-time job to focus on my business at hand. The first time was in 2018. Shout out to the Black Panther movie, because that move was made possible by a design that I created for that. And so I basically was working my 9 to 5, and then from 5 to 9 packing orders. And it got to a place where I just couldn't mentally, physically, emotionally sustain both those jobs. And I took a chance on myself. I said, your experience in higher ed, that's where I was working at the time, is never going to go anywhere. You can always come back to it. But this business, this wave that you're riding right now is temporary. So let's take advantage of it. So that was my first time leaving my job, a full-time job, to go for my business. The second was in the pandemic. I got laid off. So I had to rely on what I knew to survive. And that was my entrepreneurial skills. So I was baking, delivering. And then that's kind of when I got into the plants and doing workshops. And so now this piece, it is again now being stretched mentally, emotionally, physically, doing a full-time job on top of not only all the customer service aspects, all the marketing aspects, all the things that I knew from running my QMadeIt business, but also the added stress of a brick and mortar. So inventory, going and picking up plants, putting the stickers on all the plants, sweeping all day because I work in a plant shop and I have a plant shop. I need to sweep up the dirt. So for me, it's always been rooted in my bandwidth to carry all those things, but also financially. So I know for myself, I wasn't ready to kind of pull that trigger to leave my now current job until I made sure all my ducks were in a row. Because for me, 3 is a very important number for me. And so this will be my last time, doing this, delicate dance of getting a full-time job and then splitting it between my business. I really want to dedicate all of my time to building up my brand.
Yeah, no, I absolutely love that. First of all, just taking that chance on yourself to say that, I'm going to go full in, I'm going to give my heart to this and see if, I can, for lack of a better expression, live my dreams with this business I'm creating and birthing and putting everything into. And so I'm a big believer in believing in yourself and that acting as part of the manifestation of your dreams and goals actually coming to fruition. I think that's a beautiful thing. And the other thing that I think you said that definitely don't want to discount is the fact that, you had, and I'll call it a side hustle while you were working your full-time jobs at first, going into the pandemic, and that made transitioning into, I guess, what was your side hustle to more of a full-time job when you got laid off from your job. And one of the things I always talk about on this channel is creating multiple streams of income for yourself. And I think the pandemic was one of those situations where a lot of people that I talked to, it was that side hustle that they were pushed into a full-time hustle after getting laid off that job that kind of saved them. And so, it's just another testimony to why it is so important to have multiple streams of income. But, I'm, like I said, I'm a big believer on, just taking that chance as well and betting on yourself. And, knowing you personally, I have no doubt that you'll be very, very successful with your business. Do you mind sharing some of the technical aspects of starting up your business, especially, and you don't have to share the exact numbers, like how much you pay for rent a month, but do you have to incorporate your business? Kind of like take us through the process a little of even from idea of, okay, I'm going to do this, and then kind of the steps you took after that to kind of make it happen.
Yeah, so I have no problem sharing numbers. I think we need to be more transparent about that so we can empower people to know, like, all right, that's a good deal, or, better understanding what those are. So, after the pop-up market and after there was a clear need and desire for me to start, open up a brick and mortar, I stumbled upon my place now. It was like the one and done. Luckily, I found it. And the beauty of starting a business, or at least starting a brick and mortar in the middle of a pandemic, is that the deals are crazy because no one is. When I tell you I was looking for mentors and guidance on, like, I had no idea how to open up a brick and mortar. I knew how to run, my business that I've been running for 6 years, but a brick and mortar is a very different it's a very different can of worms. And so when I was looking, to the accelerator programs that I had done, mentors, peers, and I was telling them, there's an opportunity. I want to open up a brick and mortar. Everyone was telling me no. They were like, what are you doing trying to open up a brick and mortar in the middle of a pandemic? Businesses are closing left and right. I don't think that's a good idea. Have you thought about doing like pop-ups and things like that? And so there's also the added piece of just knowing yourself, believing in yourself and your dream, and just pushing forward. Now, there's that piece, but there's also the reality of money. So I had, inquired about the space that I'm in now. The rent was originally $2,500 a month, which for 1,600 square feet was a great deal. That's where I kind of was thinking, all right, that's a lot of money. How do I kind of offset? So that's when I thought of the idea of having the event space, and I kind of ran the numbers. I did my research on Peerspace, which is a kind of like the Airbnb of event rentals. So if you have a space that you want to rent, you can do that. So I was looking at, how much I could rent my space for, and just doing very, very conservative numbers. And I was like, all right, we can kind of make it work. And the beauty of it was I submitted my application and everything. And they was like, okay, cool. So we're going to give it to you for $1,500 for the first year. Now, most brick and mortar retail locations, you'll sign a 3-year lease. So mine's does kind of go up to about $1,800 in my third last year. But no one's beating down the door in the middle of a pandemic to rent out retail space. So even now, there's still a lot of vacancies left. So if you're thinking about, opening up a space, think about, doing what you need to do to make the finances work for you. But right now is a great time because, again, no one's really trying to like jump out the gate and open up a brick and mortar store right now.
Mm. And so I have a question here from someone. The name is Constitutional Rights and Laws. They said, how did you push through all of it? And I will say, one of the things that I saw in an article that I read about, you starting up the business during the pandemic is, receiving discouragement from people. And I don't want to, this more or less, I'll say, is discouragement for people for starting a business during the pandemic. And you just said, there were actually some positives to starting the business in the pandemic. But how did you push through those discouragement, those feelings of doubt that may have arisen, or maybe it didn't, when people were telling you this may have been a bad idea?
Yeah. Number one is your support system. I am very blessed and fortunate to have like great, close people. I like to call my chosen family around me to keep speaking positive words over my life and encouraging me. But aside from my support system, I also had the trial run, right? So I had this whole market or this whole month of pop-ups that I did that gave me actual projections. If all was well in a perfect world and I hit these numbers all the time, it'd be crazy, right? My income would be crazy, right? And so I didn't look at it like that. I said, well, what if I made half of what I did this month? And it was reasonable. And I say, whenever you're thinking about doing a huge leap or a big life decision, test it out if you can first. So that for me, that was the comforting fact is like, regardless of what you said, I already did this for a month and it worked out perfectly. And I still, from that month, from that trial, I now have a loyal customer base that is like waiting for me to open doors somewhere. Yeah. So whenever you are, doubtful or you have people naysaying you, hunker down to your support system and then do a trial run. If you're not sure, I wouldn't recommend just blindly going into business, especially in the pandemic. But if you tested something and the results were amazing, go for it. So for me, it was also the security of knowing that I already did this. I just need to actually do the work to open up a space, and I know the business is there. Not every industry, not every person is blessed enough to have that opportunity in the pandemic. If you're I worked for my full-time job helping food entrepreneurs start, which is a completely different scenario coming out of the pandemic. So just being mindful of what it is that you want to start testing, testing your product or your service, and then keep testing it until you fine tooth a way to make it work. There's one thing that entrepreneurship has taught me, and that's the beauty and finesse of the pivot. Can you pivot in spite of the odds? Can you pivot, and running Q Made It for the past 6 years, it wasn't always pretty. There's been times where I found myself in Atlanta at a vendor convention crying in the bathroom because I didn't even break even for the show. Wow. So it's not all roses and success. This experience and seeing the Plant Shop take off in a way that I'd never imagined before is not just an overnight success. This is my 6 years of learning entrepreneurship. And this is finally, taking off in this way. So if it's not working the way that you think that it should be working, take a step back, get some feedback, and find ways to kind of pivot and make it work so that it's still something that you love, but it's working and you're seeing the results that you want to receive.
Yeah, one of the things I always think about is like the idea of overnight success. People always look like an overnight success, but people never necessarily see the 6 years of Q Made It or the startup adventures of going full time into business for yourself. And so it's just interesting that there's a lot of work that goes into even before having some type of breakthrough in what you're trying to do. And I think that's encouraging, because I think everyone finds themselves at that place sometimes where it's like, I'm feeling like this is not working, I want to quit, but sometimes that encouragement is someone saying, hey, it took me 6 years really before finding something that I think will stick. And so I think that's a beautiful story and testimony there. I guess with that same type of thought process, a lot seem to have went smoothly for you. I guess, are there any potential pitfalls, hiccups in starting off a business during a pandemic like this that you may want to caution people about, or maybe even starting a business in general to look out for that, since you kind of have this experience now?
Yeah. This experience has not been without hiccups. There's been plenty of hiccups between partnerships, between contractors, between unexpected costs. Again, this is my first time opening up a brick and mortar. Some places, like, all of your utilities are included. I got hit with like $1,500 in like building taxes or building insurance that I needed to pay. So it's not to say that this experience has not been without hiccups, but I think one of the biggest things I can tell people is really, when you're starting a new adventure, when you're really excited about something, it can be easy to let the excitement get the best of you, even when you're thinking about partnerships and collaborations. But anything that you think is a huge decision, sit on it for like 3 days, right? For me, one of the best qualities I think about myself are also one of the ones that need most improvement. Like, I like to try to bring everyone along, and not necessarily everyone can come along. And I think that's one of the hardest lessons an entrepreneur can learn, is that, one, if you're choosing to be an entrepreneur, there's a little bit of crazy in you, and I embrace that crazy, and I encourage you to. But not everyone is cut out for the amount of work it takes to be an entrepreneur. And so just being mindful about the decisions that you make, the people that you invite to your table, just being clear about the expectations, sitting on those decisions that, you're really excited to make, and maybe too excited that you're kind of overlooking other pieces of it. And then just have, again, I go back to that support system, having a good sounding board, because entrepreneurship is one of the most lonely fields that you can get into, regardless if you're surrounded by partners, whether you're surrounded by just yourself. So making sure you have a solid support system, a solid sounding board, so that you can always, get some feedback from on a decision that you need to make, or, make sure that you're thinking outside the box and thinking about it from all angles. And sometimes you can't do that by yourself. So just making sure you have good people around you that want the best for you will help you with a lot of those hills and valleys, right? There's a lot of great things to celebrate, but it takes a lot to get to that place.
Yeah. And so I was wondering, talking about that support system and people help you, I know you have a beautifully decorated place. Did you end up doing those decorations? Were that all you? Did you have friends that actually helped you out? Like, what was the support system? Did you pay people to decorate? Like, what exactly transpired there?
Yeah, so a little bit of everything. So I come from a community of creatives and entrepreneurs. So the space that I wanted to create, I wanted that to be a reflection of me. So everything from the artwork, the mural behind me, that's from Ambrosia. She's a Boston artist. A lot of it I did, but a lot of it is just like the connections I made along the way, from, the body butters and earrings I sell. Those are from my, my vendor friends that I've made over the 6 years. So this really is a big community space. In terms of the renovations, I did hire a contractor, but they didn't do everything. So all the ceiling tiles, which is why there's a missing one back here, me and my girl Jen put up. I've had times where I'd had friends come in and pull stickers off of plants and do inventory. So it really is just kind of a collaborative effort from me and my support system. But a lot of it is me being in the shop until 11 o'clock, putting up IKEA shelving and all that stuff. But it's beautiful, again, for me to have a support system that, oh my gosh, I can't make it I'm double booked. Can you watch the shop for me? Or can you do a pop-up for me? So I'm in multiple places at once and I physically can't be. So I have a good team behind me. So slowly building that out so I can, hold more things and do more. But it's a little bit of everything: paid, unpaid, friends, me. But in terms of the decoration and the vision, I say that's all me.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. And it really does take a good support system. And I always say, being an entrepreneur, being a business owner is not for the lighthearted, just because the amount of work it takes to get it off the ground, the amount of work it takes to be successful at what you're doing. It's insane. Like you said, sometimes you're there till 11 in the night, setting up. Day. And so it's just insane. And I just admire, your dedication, your hard work. And like I said, I already know that this is going to be a successful venture for you. I guess, can you tell the people, if someone would like to support you, how they can go about supporting you?
Yes. So another piece, which I strongly encourage, especially all of my people, all of our melanated people, to do. If you need help, ask for it. That is one of my biggest downfalls, is that I'm a Taurus. I'm stubborn as hell. I don't like asking for help. But in order for you to, if you have a big vision, you can't lift that vision by yourself. You need help. And so one of the biggest blessings was, putting together a GoFundMe. So I still have it up because there's still ongoing costs and inventory, and as people are booking out the space and getting furniture and chairs and things for people to rent in the space. So I do have a GoFundMe. It's, if you go on GoFundMe, just type in Emerald City Plant Shop and our GoFundMe will pop up. I've been so blessed to have a community that can see the vision, that knows my work ethic, and being able to bring it to fruition. And so I was able, I think so far we've raised about $13.50, just shy of $14,000 on the GoFundMe out of our $25,000 goal. So anybody who's thinking about doing a business, don't be afraid to ask for help. Put together a little slide deck, record yourself talking about your business, do something, put it out there, and let the community help you. So that is one of the ways at which you can help, is definitely donating at the GoFundMe. But I'm open Friday through Sunday. So the best way to support is just by buying a plant, coming in, supporting the other amazing women makers that I feature in the space. So we have Full Moon Botanica, who has all your spiritual tools and crystals. We have Hippie Adjacent for your amazing lightweight plant-based earrings. Or sorry, not plant-based, but plant-themed earrings. Naturally, she has natural body butters. So a lot of beautiful creations by a lot of beautiful Black women in the city. But yeah, plants, pots, services, any of your plant question needs. This all was started in my personal journey to make all the people in my life plant parents, even if it's just one little plant. So if you have questions, you don't know how to get into plants or where to start, just come in. If it's not me, it will be my worker, Nikki, that can definitely help you and get you started on your plant journey.
No, that's amazing. And I look forward to supporting you as well, whether it's through GoFundMe or taking the trip out there to actually pick up some plants. We actually have absolutely no plants in our place inside that I can put out. So I'll probably have to change that. So I'll definitely be coming by to pick up a plant. So I guess any final thoughts, any final nuggets you want to leave with the people before we go?
Yeah. If you're nervous about something, just start. I feel like that is always my best piece of advice to people. And just start small. I started Q Made It, which led to me starting Emerald City back in 2015, after my stepmother was like, you make all this stuff, why don't you just sell it on Facebook Marketplace? And I started selling it on Facebook Marketplace, and I was like, oh, maybe I should open up an Etsy shop. And that was the start of my formal business endeavor. But you will never know your potential until you start. So start, ask for help. Another, big thing that a lot of people, or I guess a misconception out there, is like, oh, Black people don't support Black businesses, or like, dispel all that myth. What you believe is what you'll find. So if you believe that Black people don't support Black businesses, or people don't support your vision, that's what's going to happen. But if you believe that people will support what you're doing, and it doesn't, you could start a t-shirt company. There's a million t-shirt companies out there, but no one has your exact vision. So, be the support you want to see, and that'll come back to you. And that's just been my lived experience. And if you need help and encouragement, hit me up. I might not get back to you like right away, because life is crazy right now. But, I like to be that source of support for people, because I know what it's like to not have support. So if you're, questioning yourself on your journey, on your entrepreneurship journey, hit me up. I'd be happy to share any nuggets I can with you with whatever time I have.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time, Q. I truly, truly appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. And I look forward to seeing your success. I hope anyone that watches this video supports you in some type of way. And I'm going to butcher her name, but Keisha Budgets. Thank you for participating throughout the entirety of the show. Beautiful question. And I'll throw up she says, be the support you want to see. Love it, And so thank you, Keisha. And thank you again, Q, for just taking the time to share what it takes to, create a business during a pandemic. Because I do believe sometimes the hardest part is, people finding that motivation, and finding sometimes people that look like them that are actually taking a chance on themselves to start a business when other people may say, it's not the best time to do so. And so thank you for all the nuggets that you shared with us. And I look forward to talking to you again, when, probably before this, but I know that your business will be raking in millions of dollars, and you will truly be maybe probably one of the most famous plant mothers in the world. So thank you again, and love you. All right, I'll see you guys